BaT Nerds is your daily YouTube car game show.
Get those nerds!
Where we predict BaT Nerds is your daily YouTube car game show, where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Haggerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds. McGurd, the new opening. What do you think of that, nerd herd? We are having, the usual technical difficulties at the beginning, but we finally got the new bumper to play. We've been explaining this show. This is Price is Right for car nerds, BaT Nerds, your daily nerd on the most interesting car of the day from all the automotive enthusiast auction sites. My name is John Polnik. I'm coming to you live from the downtown container park at the Rami studio. My partner, Michael Deeb from San Francisco, has not chimed in yet. He is having problems with his rear end, which is not uncommon. But I do have my good buddy, Wade Bennet, across from me here in studio. What's up, Wade? How you doing?
Oh, hello. I'm good. I got to say, that new intro is great. It really does a nice job of jazzing up the show, getting people excited, getting people interested in what we're about to do. And I'm a fan. I think that was great.
Thanks,
that was
man.
Really jazzy.
Wow, I'm excited about that. I don't know. We'll see how long it takes YouTube to kick us off. Because that's ripped footage from the original Price is Right, but whatever.
It's quick enough. They won't even know.
That's got to be like fair use or something like that,
oh,
right,
yeah.
at this point. We have Switcher Gary in the studio. Switcher Jesus is no longer with us. We have moved on to a much less interesting looking fellow, but what a swell guy nevertheless. How you doing, Mental? What's up?
I'm also good, and I love it. That is a great intro. I feel like if we just say spay and neuter your pets, Bob Barker would totally have given us his blessing.
You know what? Play it again. Let's play it again for the nerd herd. Let's play it one more time.
Nerds!
BaT Nerds is your daily YouTube car game show, where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Haggerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds. And we are here live. Yeah, that's kind of, we got to redo the opening again. That was kind of fun, right?
I like it.
All
I
right.
think it's great.
All right. We'll see what the nerd herd says. What do you guys think out there, guys? Do you like the new opening? Do you like the new bumper? Do you like the new theme song? If you still like the old theme song, it'll play at the end and the credits at the very end. So it's still the same old credits that we had before. All right. We got the nerd herd is signing up. We got people watching live all over the world. That is a real thing.
It is a real thing. We have international fans every single time we do this, which is wild.
That's crazy. I know there's only 5 of them, but they are the best fans in the world, all half dozen of them. We got Chris Carbine. I'm totally screwing that up, Chris. I'm sorry. I've got your t-shirt right over there. And then Zach Miller from Cars and Bids hanging out. Zach, thank you for the very in-depth comment on the Ferrari 348 episode. We will at some point go back and revisit your answer. I want to talk to people about, we did a breakout video specifically on the Ferrari 348. I always, we've got to put, some kind of catchy, tagline or, video description and thumbnail. Wade, you're an expert on that kind of stuff. I put why would Doug DeMuro sell a Ferrari with such terrible photos, surprising, shocking results, that kind of thing. And Zach took it very well and saw through the craziness of the tagline, or not tagline description. But
he also proved us wrong. That car sold for a lot of money.
Yeah.
And Doug's platform has been doing well. I mean, they are doing a ton of cars right now, and a ton of big ticket cars too, which we'll talk about a little later. But I mean, props to them.
Yep.
Poor pictures or not, they're churning and burning really interesting, really high ticket cars.
They are getting cars out the door. Ross Churchhouse in New Zealand watching right now. Fans going a bit far. He's got a laughy emoji.
Wow.
Laughy emoji.
We're getting roasted already.
I know. They're they're making fun of us. Sahan's hanging out with us. That's awesome. What's up, Sahan? How you doing, buddy? I know you tried to call me today. You're on my list. So how you doing? We'll talk tomorrow. All right. Who else is hanging out? Clifton. Oh, man. Look, everybody's hanging out. This is going to be a great time. We're giving my partner, Michael Deeb, a little bit of time to chime in here before we get to reconciliations. We had a great drive to hell with the NFL drive last Sunday. Wade, sorry you missed it, man.
I know, I really did. The one time that I'm not out there driving, you guys have a whole party. Great drive, great weather, and now's the time to drive in this city, I would say.
Well, I mean, it's any time in the world to drive for you because you have a modern car with air conditioning. That thing has ventilated seats, right?
Oh yeah, I can even get nice warm seats.
Oh,
I can settle down in there, and I'm good
us
to go.
air-cooled Porsche guys, we're just like, I heat. I'm in the 964 with an HVAC system that's just like, I'm going to do whatever I want over here. It's like snowflakes are coming out the right vent, and like Mercury style heat is coming out of the left.
Isn't that what you guys like though?
Yeah,
the old classic.
Yeah.
It's got character.
Right.
Makes you tough. You're not really sure if you'll make it home, but it's fun anyway.
Character.
My air conditioning worked fine the entire way home.
Oh, yes, He was in the 993, and that very nice 993. Oh, look at that, my face is split. Okay, so look, Wade, you're trying to sell your Mercedes. What's the latest on that? Looks like you got a pretty interesting offer. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah,
offer?
the latest is that it is on all the platforms and then some: Auto Trader, Car Gurus, eBay, Facebook. And my best offer of the week so far is a straight trade for a Genesis G80. Used Genesis G80.
What year?
I was too afraid to ask. Even a brand new off the lot Genesis G80 is not something that I'm interested in, to put it politely. So
is that a car that they're putting a dealer ad on? Is that something
you can get a used one for like $30,000? So I can't imagine. Is there demand for that? I don't know.
Did he say, or he or she, did they say that the trunk is full of crack rocks?
He did
like
not.
Bags and bags and bags of them.
I wanted to be rude, and then I wanted to be polite, and then I just decided let me sleep on it. Let it. I'll contemplate and get back to him tomorrow. So stay tuned to see if I trade my very expensive GTS for a 4-door mom car.
I think that's an excellent plan. Not
even a mom car. It's like an airport car.
I still think you should accept the offer, set up a meeting time, and we ambush the meet with a film. We get Rami out there and be like, what are you doing? What the hell are you thinking?
I got to say, this whole process, I give people a lot of credit because isn't the saying like, if you're not embarrassed to make the offer, it's not low enough? I think if we were on the other side of the table, we would also be throwing lowball numbers.
I don't know, man. When you start talking about numbers that are half of what, maybe 20% below ask is reasonable. Anything below 20% is straight up lowball. I actually thought it would be an awesome YouTube channel to just put listings up. Just put fake listings up for cars, right?
Yeah.
And just wait for the lowballs to come in. Because if you put an ad on Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp, within minutes of posting a car, you will start getting you will start getting low balls immediately, right? Mental, you've done this, right? You've seen.
I'm going to find the person who goes to the Holiday Inn and teaches these quick, rich, quick schemes. And step one is go on any marketplace and offer 50% of what they're asking. I'm going to find that person and I'm going to choke them to death.
Well, here to that end, my YouTube channel concept is lowballers, right? What we do is we put out the BaT ad, and then when those lowballers respond, we respond back. We give them a chance to prove their humanity. Like, let's say we have a car for $10,000 and you get some jack that's like, I'll give you $4,000 for it right now, bro, I got cash. Then you respond like, yeah, I really need money. My baby needs food right now, and my electricity is about to get turned off. But I really don't think that's a good offer. Can you do a little better than that? Because the response is going to be like, they're going to smell fresh meat. They're going to be like, no, bro, it's $4,000. I could get these for $3,000 all day. I'm offering you $4,000.
That's what people have said to me, and they'll also say, "Oh, you could keep it for another month or two or whatever, but it's not even going to be worth what I'm offering." I'm like, "Are you doing me a favor then?" I don't understand.
Right. But so you kind of bait them into this and prove that they're a true asshole, and then eventually give up and be like, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it. Let's meet at the parking lot by the McDonald's."
The most interesting thing that I've learned in doing that is, I'm pretty flexible, right? Mm-hmm. At this point, the car's been for sale for a while, and I'm also curious how serious people are, even with their lowball offers. And so what I'll do is I'll just say yes to almost anything at this point to see how serious people are. And some of the responses that I've gotten are, you would actually sell it for that price? And they think I'm like a scammer, that I'm like trying to do something, like what's wrong with it? I'm like, you're the one who offered me the low ball. Yeah. So why are you surprised that I said yes? I don't get it. It's
Send me $1,000 deposit right now. You got it. So let's do this. Let's put up the BaT ad.
We'll get the 100 people right now we could do it with.
We'd be just like, okay, we're gonna do it. We'll go out there and then we'll film the interaction and just like, hey, bro, what were you actually thinking? Did you actually think you were gonna get this car for half price? Or better yet, we don't even show up. We just say we're gonna be there and we'll be across the street, like in an air-conditioned, office or something like that, and we'll just film them. And when they get there, of course they'll call. They're like, "Hey, where are you at?" And we'll be like, "Oh, we're running late," and we'll see how long we can get them to wait. And then when they're like, "I'm still here, are you coming?" Then we'll be like, "Yeah, we're at the McDonald's on Sahara," and they're like, "Yeah, I'm at the McDonald's on Sahara." Sahara and what? Sahara and, I don't know, Durango. Oh, we meant the one on Eastern. Oh, crap. So get them to drive across town, get them to go to the Eastern one, and still not be there.
I think the concept here is punked meets To Catch a Predator, to catch a low baller.
To catch a low baller. There it is. This is the okay. We're quitting Bid Nerds. And that is the new channel that we're starting. Mental, you wanted to hop in here. I'm sorry, I was going.
No, it's just Chris is interested in hearing about your Mercedes, and also Deeb just texted and said make sure you have his number. They might be able to help you out in either one of these endeavors.
Jeez, look, Deeb, are you still shitting? Is that what's going on? You're texting us from the can. Now wipe your ass and get on your damn show. We're live.
He's just going to be sitting there watching the show now. He's going to lose track of time. That's the thing. That's what happens.
He's like touching his butt, going, "This is more fun watching these guys flail."
Chris would be someone that could be interested in hearing about your car.
Yeah,
sure. So, I mean, just to give the 10-second spiel, 2016 Mercedes AMG GTS in magnetite gray, metallic, whatever it is, 40,000 miles, which is higher than average, but it's been a fun car that I've owned for 2 years. Very well maintained. New rear brakes. Over at German Motors, I have 2 years worth of documents and service history. So that's where we're at with that.
Nice. It is a very nice car. I've seen it personally. It is a beautiful car. It's a car I would like to own, but it's just not on my list right now.
I would very much, yes.
Yeah, that is a very you car there, Switcher Gary.
It is.
Now that you have short hair. Before, your hair was too long and flowy and you belonged in an air-cooled Porsche, but now you're all buttoned up and everything like that. You look like you could, be on the accounting department.
I believe the phrase you're looking for is only 8-time consecutive Formula One championship AMG.
Accounts receivable department. Got it. Yeah. All right. There it is. We're going to go ahead and start this show since Deeb just can't he just can't stop touching himself in the bathroom right now. We're going to go ahead and start with the reconciliations. We'll get through those, and then we'll get to what we do on this show. If you've hung around this long and you're new to the show, you're like, I thought this was the Price is Right for cars on Cars and Bids, PCAR Market, Bring a Trailer, and more. And you're right, that's what this is, but we've been trying to kill time for our partner in San Francisco who is having some issues. He's downing the Pepto right now, but let's go ahead and start the first reconciliation. Let's start with the Chevy SS that has the badges all over it. There it is, the Holden wannabe. This is a 2015 Chevy SS with all kinds of whiz-bang stuff on. These cars are really fast, and I would try to describe this car, but I'm not gonna, because it turns out Wade knows way too much about these. Wade, tell us about this Holden.
This is a Chevy SS that has been Holden badged. I don't know if it's a badge up or a badge adjacent, but a lot of people take these, what they are, Holdens, and the international market, Australia, New Zealand, and they badge them here. But this is a really interesting car because it's a car that didn't really get a lot of love when it was new back in 2014 through 2016, 2017, however many few years that they made it, because shockingly, nobody wants a 4-door Chevy, and especially not one with a big 400 and however many horsepower engine. And this one has the manual, which is mildly interesting to a very small group of people. So at the time, this was not a car that sold well. And after a couple of years, and even trying to get us NASCAR people into it by making it the Chevy NASCAR equivalent, they stopped making it. Now, though, it is a semi-desirable enthusiast car, particularly kind of quirky and perfect for Doug DeMuro's platform and his audience, especially in this, I would think, rare purple color scheme.
Alchemy purple with black interior is the correct.
And no miles either, which is kind of interesting. So it's an interesting car for the few people who are interested in it. And I think it still has a decent amount of value, but we'll find out.
Yeah, this car offered on Cars and Bids with 6,900 miles by a private party in Brooklyn, New York. This is in the city, man. This thing comes with a slice of pizza. I would be interested just for the pizza because that sounds pretty dang good right now. We made our bids last week. My partner Michael Deeb came in first at $50,000. I said $45,000 because I think the car, I was basically reminding everyone, hey, this is not an actual Holden. This is just a Chevy SS. You didn't seem to think that was a problem, Wade. You came in at $53,000. Mental, a.k.a. Switcher Gary, came in at $48,000. And God dang, did you come close to a Yahtzee, Mental. The actual sale with 47 bids, this car sold on Cars and Bids for $48,750. So what do you think of that result, Wade? You're kind of the resident Holden / Chevy SS expert.
Yeah, so, on the one hand, somebody paid almost, with the fees and everything, $50,000 for a 4-door Chevrolet.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money, but it's a really interesting car for those who know. If you know, it's a really interesting car. It's a car with not a ton of miles. I still firmly believe, and I said this last show, I think the person who buys this is probably buying it for the semi-collector sort of angle that this car is. They'll take the Holden badges off it. They'll put it next to their, Chevy ZR1s. They'll put it next to their, whatever kind of American cars that they have. They'll drive it occasionally. But I think it's an interesting little kind of tidbit in this American muscle car vibe that we've had the last few years that went unnoticed and underappreciated. And now it's kind of having its secondary resurgence in a way. What do you think, Mental?
I've driven these cars on the track in Anger, and they are a ton of fun. Everything you said. But I would also say one of the big mistakes that GM did is they just marketed this car horribly. So they didn't sell any, and none of the dealers wanted to come off the price on them. So yeah, it's a great machine. But as Zach Miller pointed out, this thing just sold for about what it cost new.
Yeah, which is surprising. Like you said, this is a 4-door Chevrolet that sold for MSRP 8 years after it came out. That's pretty crazy in and of itself.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, think about it. There's really not much like this out there. Anthony up in Idaho mentioned that the car only exists because GM killed the Pontiac GX8. I mean, this is a 4-door, big displacement, big V8 manual transmission 3-pedal car. I mean, who makes anything like this? Other than
No
does
one.
anyone? I mean, can you still get a BMW with a manual? Can you get
Not the V8.
not in a V8? Are there any American cars still with a big V8 that with a 3-pedal?
So the Challenger, I believe, is still sold in manual in some configurations, very few. Not the Charger, and I think that's it. I don't know. Mental might know.
No, you're right. The Charger 392 you can get with a manual. Well, you could, but they're done making them, so you're not going to get any special orders.
That's it.
And Randy's actually very smart here too. Randy's picked up on the fact that these were even between the Pontiac G8 and the SS. These were the cop cars.
That's interesting. Cop cars in
America.
In
absolutely.
America? Really?
You,
Oh, wow, that would
you
make
could
it-
only buy them if you were a police department.
I can't imagine a police department would have a manual though. Their
No,
versions
they were
would be
all
automatic.
automatic,
Yeah.
The CTSV Blackwing, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Lucas picked up on that one. He's absolutely right.
Zach from Cars and Bids is saying that the Holden badges may have held it back. What do you guys think of that?
I would agree with that. Like I said, this isn't like some sort of fast modded, something that has a lot of mileage. I think this is a car that's like semi-collector grade with so few miles and the interesting paint and the manual and everything. So the Holden badge was probably like a fun and funky idea, but it's not something that adds any value. It's more just something that's like kind of quirky and it applies to only this car. And other than the people who know the Holden GM international connection, like nobody's going to know or care one way or another. So I would agree, but it's not like it costs $5,000 or $10,000 to badge the car unless they did something with the interior or the seats or something. So I don't think it's a huge issue, but maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Well, thanks to Buddha, our friend Michael Myers, for giving us that tip. I know he's a Holden fan, so I'm pretty sure that's why he was all about that 2015 Chevy SS with the Holden badges. All right, let's get. What do you guys think of the results of that Chevy SS? Was that all the money? Was that a deal? Let us know in the comments below, and let us know if you think the Holden badges held it back, or if that added value, or if it was just kind of horizontal, just kind of flat, didn't make any difference at all. All right, now it's time to get to, we made some predictions on this beautiful 1993 Mazda RX-7. This is an R1 5-speed it's a one-owner example over on Bring a Trailer. This car was a private party car as well, out of Inglewood, California. Also terribly low miles. This is an 8,000-mile example of what is already a pretty darn rare car. This is a 5-speed manual transmission, limited slip differential, in brilliant black with black cloth and micro suede upholstery. Of course, it comes with the 16-inch 5-spoke alloy wheels, all the usual stuff. But what a beautiful car. We all had pretty high hopes for this thing. Wade, what do you think of this car in general?
I think this very well may be the nicest example of this particular car. It's one of those things, though, where it's going to sort of appeal to the semi-modern younger guy who has potentially 6 figures to buy an ultra-low mile example of this that they probably will never drive. I know we talked about this last time. I don't think the pictures were the best choice on this car, especially for something so like rare and low mile. People want to see the paint, they want to see the finish, they want to make sure that everything is looking good. And being in the detail bay with like a dozen LED bars streaking across the hood and the side, not really a great way to present this car, though I get why they maybe tried to.
Yeah, Wade, Mental, what do you think of this car?
That's an accurate assessment. This is probably the nicest example in existence. So many of these cars got LS swapped and beat within an inch of their life. And everybody actually, when they were new, was opting for the Touring, which brought you leather interior, but this was the hardcore version. It's a great car. It's a shame, though, because it's never going to get driven. Whoever bought this bought it as an investment.
So we all had really high hopes for this car. Some of us more than others. My partner Michael Deeb, who is still on the can, I think Sahan pointed out a pretty interesting piece of information. He thinks that Michael Deeb's toilet is a official Porsche toilet, so it probably broke down on him.
Ooh. I can see that, though.
Yeah, on his way to the show, it happened. So he's calling his plumber and complaining at him for, not doing it right. Okay, so Michael Deeb's number was a whopping $140,000. That's what he thought it would bring. I was like, yes, I agree with all of you guys. This is the nicest example of one of these I think we've seen and probably will ever for quite a while. But I still just don't think this car is I don't think it's a Supra. I don't think it's some of these other cars from the era that really are bringing the big money. This is still a rotary engine car. This is a car that, because it has the low miles, it will probably need to be rebuilt almost immediately. And frankly, there's no one around that will do that anymore. It's really hard to find rotary mechanics. I came in at $95,000. You, Wade, came at $122,000, and Mental, aka Switcher Gary, came in at $120,000. And who was right? This guy right here. The car sold for 10 bids for $80,500, which I still kind of think is all the money. I think that makes sense. I don't think this is necessarily the result of poor economy or inflation. Go ahead and play the drinking game. I just think that these cars have a limited, very nice. We've got some music there going for my correct bid. No, I mean, look, I was still pretty off. I mean, even though it was $80,000 and I was the closest, I was still a good $15,000 over. I thought it would bring a little bit more money. Why do you think, Wade, it didn't bring $122,000 like you thought?
Well, I think there are a couple of reasons why. Number one, like you said, it's not a Supra. It's not something that has a ton of heritage necessarily or notoriety, which I think is reflected by the fact that there were only 9 bids, right? That's not a ton of bids. It's not a ton of action. I mean, the numbers are still pretty high. It's $80-something thousand for a car like this, but it's not as widely known or respected. And yeah, it's probably one of the nicest examples of this car, but it's not the nicest example of the car. It's not the nicest example of something with heritage, something with interest, something that has mass appeal. So I would have liked to have seen it hit 6 figures. Even 100,000, I think, would have been a good price. But whoever buys this, I think, is going to hold on to it and will probably still end up making some money, because more and more people from the younger generation who know what this car is will probably still be interested in it.
Mental, what do you think?
I agree. I think this was well bought. Even though we went through the panels that were rubbed with a slice of bacon on there. I think even if they just go to resell this one in the spring on the proper platform, this one will make money.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know I've said it. I'm a broken record. This is not a Supra. I think this car is more on par with something like a GTI or a Corrado or something like that. It just doesn't have that big power that some of the big super Japanese cars had. So it's something that kind of beat a bunch of cars in its class, and I think that makes sense with this number. I mean, Corrados, if you had a Corrado that was this nice and same miles, you're probably looking at somewhere around a $60,000 or $70,000 car.
I think we had one of those on here.
Yeah, very recently. Yeah, one of the nicest Corrado VR6s that we've seen in years. So I mean, we've talked. It's hard not to compare this to that GTI, that Mark II Volkswagen GTI with like 50,000 miles, but it was like perfect condition about, 6-7 months ago, sold for almost $80,000, or I think it was $80,000. So this car is kind of in that same ballpark to me. I mean, way fewer miles, and I think it's a better car than any Volkswagen with front wheel drive. This is way more fun.
Well, this was a supercar.
I see. That's where I don't think I agree.
Well, I mean, on numbers alone, absolutely. Twin turbos, the 300 plus horsepower, it could run within fractions of seconds of the NSX and the Supra.
Yeah. I mean, what do you guys think out there? Can the RX-7, any version of it, ever really be considered a supercar? I think you're going to get a challenge on that one, mental. But you can make the argument. I mean, I get it, but I just don't think it's there. I think that just like the Corrado and some of those other cars, they can get run really close to those numbers, but it's just, I mean, what's the displacement on this little rotary engine? Do we know? I'm sure it's in the specs. I don't know.
It's less than 2 liters.
Yeah, let's move on from the RX-7 though. I mean, I'm with you. What do you guys think of the results of the RX-7 R1, the 1993 on Bring a Trailer that went for $80,000? Do you think that was a great deal? Do you think this thing was well bought? Or do you think that's all the money? Let us know in the comments below. We sure like getting it. You know, look, Wade, I always go back and look at the comments, and we try to reply to as many of them as we can. And I got to tell you, I'm a nerd. I'm a car nerd. I like to think that I know a few things, especially about cars from this era. But I'm always learning. The people that are out there commenting and kind of getting into our videos know more than I think any of us on here. Sahan is Mark. It's a 1.3 liter. Can there be any such thing as a 1.3 liter supercar? I don't know if that's possible.
BMW i8.
Yeah, I think you just made my point. That is not a supercar. All right, moving on. Boy, this next car on the list, I know we were all super excited about this. Some of us in the room more than others. We had a 1988 Porsche 911 Turbo on Bring a Trailer in what color is this color? Let's see if we can find out. You guys remember what color this was? I'm having some technical difficulties here.
Wasn't it Mystic Blue or something like that?
Some kind of crazy Life Aquatic blue. Let's see here. This was a 60,000 mile example of what appears to be one of the nicest 88 911 turbos I think I've seen in a long time. Obviously, 4-speed manual transmission, like they all were, in Venetian blue metallic. You guys were pretty excited about that. I kind of think that color is basically 1984 Honda Accord blue, but they put a nice spin on it. Venetian sounds way better. Marine blue interior. That's interesting to me. I think that's more interesting than the exterior because that's more rare. That color interior, that leather, boy, I don't know if I've ever seen one that color. This car is offered by a dealer, or was offered by a dealer out of Florida, which is always kind of a deal breaker for me. But Wade, you were all about this color. What do you think of this car?
I think this is a great car. This is a very nice light metallic blue that's like interesting enough but not polarizing for vast majority of buyers. The interior, I don't know, I take it or leave it, makes no difference to me. It could be black, it could be dark blue. I don't really care about that. But the pictures I think sold this car, aside from the fact that it is a wonderful car in and of itself. The presentation was great, the color is great. I think add 5% at least for the color, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Mental, I don't know do you remember if off on Sunday when we were talking about this car, did Deeb skip the fact that this has an Andile Racing intercooler and some other cool mods? Did we talk about that?
I think we just beat how pretty it was, and you're iffy about Florida cars.
Yeah.
But I think, no, he did not mention the modifications to that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, this car, when I knock the color, when I, rib it and say, oh, it's like a Honda car or something like that color, I'm not actually saying that I don't like it. It is an absolutely beautiful car and a beautiful color. I'm just a boring person. Everything in my closet is the same color.
We can tell.
Obviously, clearly. So we all know this. If you've watched more than one episode or all 100-something episodes, I'm always wearing basically the same thing, black shirt and a black hat. And I like my cars to match. I would not be unhappy to drive something like this. I have a theory. Maybe it's not a theory, but I have kind of a rule. If the bad guy in a movie wouldn't drive it, I won't drive it.
Are you a bad guy in a movie, though?
Yeah, because the bad guy in a movie always drives the coolest car.
That's fair.
Okay, seriously, James Spader would have totally driven this car in any of his movies where he was the villain.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, but it would have been better if it were black. He would have been more evil if it was black. It's kind of like on those TV shows or movies, that old trope, it was big in the 80s, when you'd have like the main character on the TV show, and then all of a sudden his evil twin would show up in an episode once they jumped the shark, and the evil twin would have a goatee, right? he would drive a black car. He wouldn't drive a blue Honda blue car. Goatee. Anyways, all right. So I'm going off on that. We all thought this car would bring some pretty big money, especially because of that color. I think we all agreed that color means bigger money than maybe a standard one. We talked about our friend Chef's car. He has basically the same car, but his is all black in the configuration that I would prefer it. But I did have to concede that would bring more money. Deeb thought this car would bring $175,000. I came in at $150,930, so I was pretty bearish on this thing. Wade, your number was $169,000. Mental, you were right up there with Deeb and just a little over Wade. You played the Price is Right game at $170,000. This car sold on Bring a Trailer with 31 bids, and dag nabbit, Michael Deeb, give yourself, hit that little, I know you've got, what's the bidet, give yourself a good little squirt. That car sold for $181,000. Michael Deeb, you were pretty darn close on that one. Maybe not necessarily, that wasn't Yahtzee territory, but that was a pretty darn good guess. What do you think of that result? Wade? That's
a lot of money. I mean, 181,000. My question to you is, how much of that do you think is really for the color? At least 5-10 grand probably.
At least. Yeah. I mean, look, I bid the thing at $150,000 because I think 930s are kind of soft in general. So, I mean, a really nice 930 with maybe those andile mods and some of the other cool stuff and the nice photography. The nice photography probably added at least $10,000. So, yeah. That always helps. Yeah. But really what sold it was that color. Porsche nerds love colorful stuff, and 20 years ago it was totally different. 20 years ago, like, these colors were sales proof. Now that's all anyone wants. Wade, what do you think? I'm sorry, Wade. Mental, what do you think of the result of this 930?
It's gorgeous. I just hope they drive it. This thing needs to be exercised.
I keep calling it a 930. It's actually a Porsche 911 Turbo.
It is, but yeah. Porsche does get the ultimate thing on that one, but I'm going to come back to, if it's a turbo, it's air cooled, and it's a 4-speed, it's a 930. I am with you on that. Looks like we've got so Kevin Bodeman was at 140. Randy Bloom was at 165. So we were all kind of in the neighborhood. Wait a minute. It says Randy Bloom said 100. Randy said 188. He was actually giving he kept track of everyone else's bids, because not only is he a true bid nerd, he's a bid nerd, and he's awesome, and I'm glad he's watching. He should be doing my job right now here. I'm just flaying along because Michael Deeb's in the shitter. All right, 1997 911 Turbo S. This is a bad boy looking car if there ever was one. Doug DeMiro trying to sell this car on Cars and Bids. Take a look at this goodness. I just got done professing my love for all things bad guy car. If this is not the goatee of bad guys, I don't know what is. I know the bad boy car was a 964 turbo, but this is a 993 Turbo S with the... Well, don't confuse bad guys and bad boys. That's good point. The bad boys were the good guys, so they were driving a 993. See, that's my whole point, is the cool guy drives a black car. Is Will Smith going to drive a colorful turbo Porsche in a Bad Boys movie? I don't think so. Maybe he did, actually. I think in was it the second or third one? They gave him a 991. I don't know. You were going to have to go back and look at that. It was the third one. The C4S, wasn't it? The second one was a Ferrari. The first one was, of course, the last, the big 3-2. I knew someone in this room would know this information. And then the second one was a Ferrari, and then the third one, The third one was what? It was like a 991 C4S, wasn't it? Exactly. And then also... Because the turbo hadn't come out yet. Yeah, Martin Lawrence had the who cares what Martin Lawrence is? That's again, my point. Exactly. This black 993 Turbo is the bee's knees. I mean, this car has everything, including big old air scoops on the side that don't do a dang thing. This car only has 15,500 miles, offered by a private party in my old neck of the woods up in Bellevue, Washington. Being a Seattle guy, this is a manual car, of course. None of the turbos came with a horrible Tiptronic. This car has it all. Wade, what do you think of this thing? This is a big, big car. This is the kind of car that, honestly, it makes the news when
it gets sold because there's only a couple of hundred out there. This is one of a very, very nice example, well represented, well documented. And it being on Cars and Bids, we kind of were going back and forth on whether or not he'd bring all the money, if he'd get all the attention. I watched this auction. It had 50 or 60,000 views. It had tons and tons of eyeballs for a well-deserving car, a car that I think most of us could only dream of driving or even standing next to. But yeah, this is a massive car, and I think it's the kind of car that can really define a platform like Doug's, and we'll have to see in a moment if it's got all the money.
Switcher Gary, when you had long hair, you'd have looked pretty cool in this car. I don't know if, you're going to have to basically grow a goatee in order to drive this now, right?
Which I totally would. I would profess my loyalty to all things evil to park this in my driveway.
I mean, there are not many things that you could do to get me to wear a goatee, but offering me this car for doing so, I would absolutely partake in. This car, on Cars and Bids, Doug DeMuro, is this the place for a car like this? Can Doug DeMuro, do you think, move something like, is Cars and Bids the right place, Wade?
I think it depends. I've personally seen some big numbers on this platform, some Lamborghinis that have gone really, really high and some other kind of quirky cars that tend to get some maybe higher than average numbers for a platform that is, in the grand scheme of things, still relatively new, still trying to figure out their place in the market. I think a car like this, we all agreed, would have probably been better on Bring a Trailer. A nice 14-day premium auction would have generated a ton of interest, a ton of eyeballs. But this is the kind of car that I think Doug is aiming for and having more of. And I appreciate the seller, the representing party, whoever sold this car, taking a chance and propping up another platform with a car like this, because competition is always good. Bring a Trailer may be the leader in most cars sold, but they get some things wrong from time to time, and having a different platform, having big cars on those platforms, having more choice is always a good thing. So I support it. I would be a little wary, but that's just me.
Well, let's get to the results and see what the actual retail price of this car is. Actually, it's not the retail price, but what it actually sold for, and it did sell. This car only got 9 bids. When we reviewed this car on Sunday, there was, I think, still a day left. There was a bid. It looks like it was 2 days before the closing. This is something that I kind of wanted to mention but forgot to mention when I made my bid. I was like, you know what? Sometimes Cars and Bids is the only platform that I can think of, including PCAR Market, where you'll get a bid a day or two before the end of the auction, and that will be the last bid. Michael Deeb said that this car would get up to $675,000. I went under him just a little bit at $630,993. Get my little joke there. Wade, you came in at $685. You were over, Deeb. No one ever does that. That's crazy. The only person more mental than you was the guy we call mental at $695. I think we all agreed, and so did people in the comments. There were people saying that this car is going to be $1 million car. It was not. With only 9 bids and the last bid coming in days before the end of the auction, this car sold for $550,000. $550,000. What happened? Is this a fail or is this awesome? What's going on?
I could look at it both ways. On the one hand, the difference between, let's say, 550 and 600,000, percentage-wise, isn't massive. It feels like a big number, but is that going to, make or break anything? Probably not. The difference between 550 and, say, 700,000, where a decent amount of people thought this car would go, is pretty significant. I think that there's a couple things that are telling here. One, prices for cars are coming down, arguably, especially over the last couple of months. It is the time of year where people aren't driving, but I don't know that this car is going to get driven that much, that often. So I'll take that out of the equation. I think it got as many eyeballs as possible, some 50 or 60,000 views on the listing. I know they've ran ads on this car. They put it on social media. It was out there. It was being shown. So I don't know that it would have hit a $700,000 number maybe anywhere, but perhaps there was another $50,000 to $75,000 left somewhere in there for another interested party who maybe isn't familiar or not comfortable on cars and bids, whatever whatever the factor might have been. And maybe Bring a Trailer would have been the better option. But at the end of the day, it is a free market with a free auction that anyone who's interested in a car like this that has $500,000 or $1 million can sign up and bid. And like you say often, JP, what did it sell for? This is what it sold for. This is what at least 8 or 9 other people agreed that it was worth, or all the money that they wanted to spend. So perhaps this is where this car is.
Mental, what do you think?
I like his point about giving another platform a chance. I was very snotty on it last week, but Wade turned me around with the whole thing of, there's 100 of these things, and everyone who wants one knows where all of them are. So by putting it on this platform, I think they did the right thing. And the car was going to go for whatever money was. You could have put this on Facebook Marketplace and it wouldn't have done as well, but the news would have rounded the country in a matter of hours because of the rarity of this car. I think it was rare. I think it was well bought. I think this is another one of those that literally you could throw it back on here in the spring and make money.
We saw our friend Shoddy try to sell his Hot Rod 911 on Bring a Trailer, and I think it was only bid to $90,000 or something like that, and then the buyer failed to come through, and which wound up being Shoddy's good fortune, because just a couple months later he went and sold it for $160,000 on the same platform with the same photos. Nothing changed, right?
Read the comment. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. But hold on, I can't see that.
Oh, sorry.
Comment.
The car brings $200K more next year in Monterey. Bookmark it.
Yeah. I think this car would have brought $200,000 more on Bring a Trailer. I just do. Something that's interesting to note here: the day before the auction closed, so after the $550 bid came in, it's noted in the comments that the reserve has been lifted. Someone is taking this 993 home. So that means the reserve was probably higher than 550, but it was close enough that they decided to pull it, thinking that would inspire more bids, which usually it does. I am not here to rip on cars and bids. I just think that this car is just so high profile and such a big deal that the buyers for stuff like this are on the other platform. It sucks. I want there to be more parity in this market. I want cars and bids to kind of kick BAT's butt. Someone kind of needs to. PCAR Market ain't going to do it because they're just jerks over there. And cars and bids, we like all the people over there. We know the culture is right.
Zach is here right now.
And Zach is here right now going, hey, what the heck? But I think somehow, what is it that needs to happen in order for cars and bids to, look, the fact that there were no bids on the last day is crazy to me.
Yeah.
If it were BAT, there'd be it always almost doubles on the last day.
Yeah, I don't know what the bid increments are for that particular auction or that. It may be 5, 10, it could be 20K, whatever it is. It is surprising that not anybody else even just flicked in something. I think to your point, the question is, can cars and bids bring both the high profile bidders and dealers that Bring a Trailer often has, and also, I don't want to generalize, but maybe the older generation that has been known to frequent Bring a Trailer and their perpetual browsers and commenters, and maybe they have a little extra money to spend. I think that's probably the missing equation, because let's be honest, Cars and Bids, Doug DeMuro, he applies to the younger folks, the people who are interested in supercars and quirky modern cars and stuff from the 80s and the 90s. Maybe not massive 6-figure collector cars, certainly not cars pre-1980 that I think Bring a Trailer specializes in, rare cars from the 50s and the 60s that big collectors are also seeing and browsing the platform, and they know when things are coming on. So it'll be a process, and I don't know that this car was maybe an experiment or a presentation or representation that says we can sell a big car. May not be the best example, but it is an example, and it is headed in the right direction.
Yeah, we're still talking about $500,000 more.
Yeah.
More than $500,000. Zach says, in Zach's from Cars and Bids, Zach Miller, he says, contrary to popular belief, announcing dropped reserve actually does not improve bidding per their data.
Interesting.
So anecdotally, that doesn't seem right to me, but data is data, and I can see an argument for that because, like I pointed out, hey, he dropped the reserve. That kind of lets everybody know that that's kind of where the seller was thinking, maybe that was a signal to everyone going, oh, this isn't $1 million car like everyone was speculating. If they dropped the reserve at 5.5, okay, well, I guess it's maybe 5.5 is it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because you have, what the seller thinks it's worth and what the market thinks it's worth, and it's supposed to come together and maybe somewhere in the middle. But I could see the point where, you have a reserve, the auction's about to close, and the seller says, okay, I'm good with this number. And then the buyer's thinking, well, if he's good with this number, maybe I could have got it cheaper. If this is okay.
Well, the theory is that you say, okay, I've dropped the reserve, and that has a bunch of people thinking that, okay, I'm in that $500,000 mark, and maybe this car is going to be $700,000. I'm not even going to bother. And then you get them going, and they start bidding against one another, and they have creep as it goes up. Mm-hmm. But I think there's good arguments for either side. I think in this particular situation, since there were people speculating that it could be $1 million car, the seller should have gone ahead and removed the reserve. He was happy with the number, but not said anything about it. Should have been like, yep, okay, here we go. So what do you guys think of the result of this absolutely stunning 993 Turbo S in all black out of Seattle, Washington? Was this car stolen at 5.5, or is this $1 million car in the waiting? Is someone going to flip this thing in a few months on the spring side and make all the money? Let us know in the comments below. And we love hearing your comments because we always learn some things or two from the nerd herd out there. So that is our predictions. Those were our predictions from last week. So we have brand new predictions coming up right after this. So stick around. Don't go anywhere. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden. This guy. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about, and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. If you don't subscribe to Bid Nerds on YouTube right now, I'm gonna shoot this 997. If you said, wait, that's a 996, you're a nerd. So subscribe to the new YouTube channel, Bid Nerds.
Get those nerds!
And we are back with predictions. It's time for all new predictions. We kind of went long with our reconciliations because we didn't have my partner Michael Deeb here from San Francisco. He's feeling a little under the weather, so we let him take the night off. Michael Deeb, get better soon so that you can do your job, because I'm not very good at it. All right. I am really stoked about the cars that we have coming up, but I am not stoked about presenting them like Michael does. He does this better than I do. But the first car we're going to talk about over on Cars and Bids. We've got Zach Miller hanging out with us in the chat. Zach Miller is from Cars and Bids, so he can help us out on this 2016 Porsche 911. This is a 991.1 GTS. Take a look at this car, you guys. This is not your normal looking GTS. This is a crazy color, viola metallic. It's a purple 991. This GTS comes with a 7-speed manual. That's a 3-pedal car. That is very hard to find in the GTSs. This is a 12,000 mile example coming to you from a private party in Los Altos, California. I am pretty stoked about this thing. Our good friend Jason Alter, aka Miami Yay, who sometimes hangs out with us in the studio and is often part of our Dur or Die Porsche podcast. He has a black one of these, but his is PDK. So we always kind of give him a hard time. He's a hardcore driver. He has a 3-pedal 964, so he makes up for it.
And a Lotus race car.
And a Lotus Exige race car that he just got. He's super excited about. I think I get to drive that tomorrow. I'm pretty stoked. But this is a really cool car. Look, a 7-speed version of this car is where it's at when it comes to the 991.
It's one more, isn't it?
I owned a, what was that? I don't know what you said. Are those words?
It's one more, isn't it? When everyone else stops at 10, we've got one more. Yes, it's one more.
Miami J is not in the studio. He's usually the purveyor of these terrible accents. Just look, Switcher Gary is picking up where Miami J left off. That was fun. What kind of options does this car have? It looks like it's got Sport Plus. It's got PDCC. It's got exhaust. This thing is loaded. This is a chrono car. PDCC is incredible in any Porsche they put it in. In this particular car, I can only, the mind boggles at how well this car must handle. The other cool thing about this car is you're looking at that interior. It's got that kind of two-tone, the black dash with the dark brown. I'm looking at the wrong place to find out what color that interior is. Espresso cognac interior. But what I like about it is this is when the Porsche line finally got their act back together with the late 991.1s and started doing the black top dash, and then the color was below the dash. Most Porsches before this, if they were the cognac, the whole goddamn interior was cognac, and it was like just a sea of cognac. You were swimming in cognac. But this one with the black on top, I think looks really stunning. For you goofy color Porsche guys, I think this car is very attractive. Even though I prefer an all black one, I dig this thing. Wade, what do you think of this car?
I think I'm a goofy color Porsche guy.
I think you are, yeah.
I love the purple on this, and I'll also say that when I search for GT3 RSs that I can't afford, I sort by purple only, the violet color that those are on. So this dark deep purple is great. I kind of hate the light brown cognac interior. I would have preferred a black or at least one color. But yeah, 7-speed, great car overall, a lot of fun. It's a weird spec though, which is like, yeah, it's fun, but purple with black wheels, yellow calipers, cognac interior, black, accents. I don't know why somebody would go out of their way to check those boxes. So it's probably going to be the kind of car that only is attractive to like one particular person. I would be that person. But I would still change some things. Oh, maybe two. Switcher Jesus, are you interested?
Absolutely.
Are we going to have a bidding war on this car?
Absolutely. This is a great color. I love
Switcher Jesus has left the building. This is Switcher
No,
Gary.
yeah,
What do you think?
Switcher someone sat down and ordered this one. I don't want to say they sat down and ordered it to be weird, but they ordered it to be their car. No dealer ordered this one. Someone filled out a form. This is awesome.
For sure.
Lucas is pointing out that any additional dollar is going to be pure for this color. And I think with like an almost normal interior, he's 100% right.
Yeah, I mean, look, that two-tone color interior, it's not black on top. It's espresso and cognac. I think it may have been the .2s. Porsche actually got sued because they had that all beige interior on so many of their cars, and particularly in the Macans and the Cayennes, and then the 991s, they have that really long dashboard, the top of the dashboard, not width, but like the distance between where the dashboard starts and where the glass starts is like 14 feet. There's like a lot of real estate up there. And what was happening because of the slope of the glass, when you had light coming through, if you had a light color dashboard, it would basically render your windshield opaque. You couldn't see through the damn thing because the light colored dash, the reflection would then make it impossible to see through the windshield. So Porsche started being required to make black dashboards. My Macan is a 2018 with a red interior, but the dash is black. And frankly, that's the way I prefer it. I'm glad they did that, because if that whole interior were red, that would just be terrible. But having it offset with mostly black and carbon fiber in the red, same thing with this car. You're absolutely right, Mental. This car was absolutely ordered by someone. No dealership orders this. But I think the color freaks, when it comes to Porsches, are going to go gaga over this. Probably would have been better if it were black interior, though.
It's an interesting point you make about the dash. Kind of off topic, but I know a lot of Rolls Royces and Mercedes with their like white or gray interior. When people review those cars, they say they can't see a thing out the windshield as well because the white reflects. So I guess it has purpose. It's kind of weird, but there's a reason.
Come on, Porsche. That's their original deals. Form function before form, or form follows function. The whole idea that you design around function makes make sense. This whole, I just never
You actually
understood.
want to see while you drive?
That's kind of a
guess.
thing that I think is mildly important. I mean, maybe not on some of these EVs these days. Maybe, Tesla would be fine because you just push a button. But in a Porsche, especially a 3-pedal one like this, I owned a 991.1 S with a manual with all the same doodads except for the PDCC, and that car was freaking spectacular. I mean, it was a 400 horsepower car, and it wasn't the GTS. I remember going from my car and directly getting into Jason's car with a GTS, and you can definitely tell the step up. Jason's car has a lot of Alcantara. This one doesn't, which is surprising me. A lot of the GTSs have Alcantara steering wheels, but you can just tell it's a little bit more dialed in. It's a little bit more firm. I can only imagine how good this car is with PDCC. My Cayenne Turbo, my E1 Cayenne Turbo that I had with PDCC was, it just defied gravity. It defied logic. It defied physics. I mean, a 5,000-pound vehicle being able to go around corners like that car did, and that wasn't even a 911. I really want to drive this car. I think this is probably, if I were looking for a 991.1 generation car, this is the one to get over the GT3, because the GT3 in the .1 generation only came in PDK. So I think this is probably the best configuration of the .1 991 you could get, other than maybe the R, which we all know would be $500,000. So with all that said, looks like Michael Deeb has thrown in a bid from his bathroom, but looks like we're getting Are we getting numbers from the audience?
Yeah,
looks like Sahan is at 115,000. Lucas is at 124,000. Church House is saying 111. Let's see here. And where's Michael Deeb coming in? Michael Deeb's coming in at 135, and I'm with him. I'm going to say 125. I think this car has low miles, has a great color. If it were a black car or a silver car, it'd be close to the numbers that people were talking about. But I think this car with crazy, goofy color, actually, I'm going to say 125,991. Wade, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's at least a $100,000 car. I think the spec is polarizing. If there's two people who really want a purple Porsche, then they're gonna fight for it. I'm gonna be a little mean and maybe come down on my guess because it's cars and bids, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna say 118. And I have one question. What is it at right now?
116.
116. So yeah, just maybe another bid or two, but I think that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's less than a day left. I mean, this is going to close tomorrow, and like we've already seen, sometimes on cars and bids, you get the day before is the last bid. Switcher Gary, where are you at?
I'm gonna say 129.91.
991. Look at you. 129,991 going just between me and Deeb. Look, I think the color is going to bring the money. The biggest thing I think that could potentially hold it back is cars and bids, but unlike the 993 Turbo S that we talked about before the break, that is top end, that is blue chip, that is just the best 911 for the purist and for the Uber collector. Whereas this car is a little bit more pedestrian. This is the kind of car that I think, to what you say pretty often, Wade, kind of speaks to their audience. It's a 991, but it's not a regular 991. It's got the 3 pedals, and it's in a weird, quirky color. I could see Doug himself driving this car. Yeah, I think if Doug were going to drive, if I had to guess, like, let's say we didn't see this ad and someone told me, yeah, I heard Doug DeMuro bought a 991 GTS, I'd be like, I bet it's a purple one with cognac interior, right?
Yeah.
You guys get with me on that?
I could see that. I could see this car being for him as well. I know he likes whatever he calls it, the poster color, the flagship color. I don't know what color this car launched at, but a nice deep purple, quirky, weird spec kind of car that is still a driver's car is definitely him. And I think it's definitely his platform as well. So I'm interested. But like you said, if all the bids are in, that's okay too. It's still a decent amount, but it's a lot of car for $120,000.
I mean, again, I know the GT3s of the same era are going for 130s, but they're pieces of shit. They blow up. All of them. The GT3.1s are going to blow up. If you have a GT3.1, it's going to blow up, or it's already blown up and you already know that it's going to blow up again. I mean, we've seen some of these on 3 motors, and the factory has been warranting them for 10 years, and that's about to be over.
Yeah, next year.
Yeah, next year will be it. So, I think this is probably the best 911 you can get in the 991 configuration. You start getting into the 992s, and now you're talking about, twin turbo, small displacement 3 liters and stuff like that, which are faster. By all means, are definitely faster, but there's something about having the bigger displacement 6 with the naturally aspirated car. Certainly, I prefer. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. I'm kind of surprised the Nerd Herd is not feeling us on this. Sahan thinks he's bumped it up to 129 now, but everyone else is kind of
got in at 122
122,
as well.
991.
And then, Ross recorrected when he realized it was already at 1.6, so he is also at 121.
Yeah, some of these guys bid under what it actually is already.
Because they're purists. The nerd herds are honest and they don't like to cheat.
Well, come on, you guys know that's true. We love the Nerd Herd. They're rocking it. Okay, so we got a car. This next car, I'm riled up on this one. Can you tell, Switcher Gary? I'm a little riled up.
Please don't tell me it's another used Volkswagen. Please, anything but a used Volkswagen.
An 82 Scirocco, just for Wade. No. I'm kidding. The next
I love that you think there's another surviving 82 Scirocco anywhere in this country.
Is on our favorite platform. The good people at PCAR Market are offering this 2011 Porsche 911 Carrera. This car looks pretty nice. This is a 997.2. This is a car that is sought after. This is kind of a unicorn. It is coming out of Florida, but it is a private party. This car has 73,000 miles. This is a manual. So that makes it super duper uber rare. This is not an S though, correct? This is just a regular base 997.2. This is the generation of 997 that forgoes the IMS. They got rid of the IMS in 2009. From 2009 to 2012, 13, depending on the trim, the 997 was still around. These cars are pretty darn bulletproof. They got rid of all the problems that 997s in the first generation had. And one thing about Porsche in this era, in 2009, when they did the upgrade to the car, you got to figure that 2009 models were actually on the showroom in 2008. When what happened? For those of you who are not big history buffs, there was a big old recession in the United States back then, and Porsche did what they do and what a lot of people are thinking they're doing now. They pulled back on production of their cars, so not a lot of 997.2s were made, which is why if you've ever looked for one, they're next to impossible to find, especially when it comes to a 3-pedal version. This is a 3.6 liter engine. This is the regular flat 6. This is not the 3.8. I'm not sure what the horsepower off the top of my head is, but it's somewhere around 350 horsepower, which is pretty close to what the previous S was in the generation before. This car doesn't appear to have tons of options, does it? Sorry guys, I'm not as good as Michael Deeb is on this. Does this have it looks like to be kind of a low spec car. Sorry, I'm cruising through the photos here to see if I can see. Is this even a chrono car? It's not even a chrono car. So does this even have sport? I don't know.
No.
Doesn't even have sport. So I actually owned a convertible version of this car. I had a 90, I'm sorry, not a 90, but an 09, which is essentially the same car. I like this little gear shift knob that they put on it. It had the updated infotainment and all that stuff. I think for the money, if you can find a 997.2, I'm always recommending that people get one of these over almost any 991 in the same trim level. So if you're looking for a base 911, a 997.2 is definitely better than a 991. If you're looking for a GTS, same thing. If you're looking for a GT3, same thing, across the board. Wade, have you ever driven a 997.2 or any 997 for that matter?
I have not, but this is a car that really interests me because I think it's the kind of car that I probably wouldn't get into too much trouble in, but I would still really enjoy driving. And whoever owned this car definitely enjoyed driving it too. Do you consider 70-something thousand miles a lot for a car like this? I know you said it's relatively bulletproof, but does that scare you more or less than the fact that this car is in Florida right now?
Yeah, the Florida thing is a way bigger deal than the miles. This is kind of relatively high miles for this car, but the .2s, you don't have to worry about that stupid IMS. I mean, the only big Achilles heels on these, they do still have cylinder scoring issues, which we've heard problems. But overall, this is a really, really reliable powertrain. I mean, it is a tried and true engine. It's not the Metzger still, but once they got rid of that IMS problem, it was pretty smooth sailing. Mental, what do you think of the 997.2?
It's a good looking car. I think Deeb kind of wrapped it up. It's several mods, but it's a basic Porsche.
Yeah.
The only person you're going to impress with this car is yourself, and that's cool. That's actually the one to have. And knowing that it's a newer model, I would still lean back towards that purple one. But I'm called mental. So
well, I mean, look, we could start talking about the numbers, right? I mean, that's a GTS, and it also has low, but that one's going to probably go for significantly more than this car. But we'll get to the numbers in a second. One of the things that I think is an issue, by all means, that 991 GTS is a better car, but a 997.2 GTS is better than the 991 GTS. You tracking me on that one, Mental?
Absolutely, yeah. No, it makes total sense. There's
it's
nothing
not an
wrong.
apples to apples kind of situation.
But there's nothing wrong with this car, but it's just not. It doesn't grab me the same way something a little more dramatic would.
It wouldn't take much to mod this car to make it something really, really fun. But look, the reason why I'm all riled up about this car isn't because the specs of the car. This goes right back to typical. This is just PCAR Market. Go back to that picture under the hood there, Mental. Is there that picture under the hood there? Of the actual hood, not in the yeah, okay. So no spec sheet. So all Porsche 911s have all the options on a sticker underneath the hood. This one doesn't, and this is something that's just like that's kind of on par when it comes to PCAR Market. The ad says this is a 2011 Porsche 997, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. This does have an LSD, by the way, which is pretty cool. Limited slip is great. This car was sold new from Park Place Porsche of Bellevue, Washington, and has been under current ownership for the last 5 years. Okay, that sounds pretty reasonable, right?
Yeah, sure. 5 years ownership on a car is a long time. Hopefully it's maintained, documented.
Park Place Porsche of Bellevue does not exist. There is a Park Place
Limited.
dealership,
Yeah, Park Place
limited. They're pretty famous. They sell a lot of Porsches, but they are not a Porsche dealership. And all you got to do is go down and look at the provided Carfax in the pictures, not a link to a current Carfax, but pictures of a Carfax.
Pictures of a current Carfax? Or
good question,
a
right?
Carfax
when was this Carfax printed out? Was it printed out months ago? Was it printed out yesterday? Was it printed out years ago? I don't understand why PCAR Market wouldn't just put a link to the damn Carfax. It's by themselves, these are not particularly huge issues, but you start adding them up, and then you look at PCAR Market's history and all the dumb-ish that PCAR Market constantly does. There is no Porsche. There is no Park Place Porsche of Bellevue. Go look at the Carfax that they provide, and you can see this car started its life in California, not Washington State. There is a number of great Porsche dealerships up in Seattle. Park Place ain't one of them. And Park Place, my personal experience has not been stellar when it comes to their reputation and the way that they do business. Do your own research and decide for yourself your opinion of Park Place Motors. Park Place Motors or Park Place Limited to me is very much PCAR Market. That is totally on par. But these are just dumb, unforced errors that take no time. How would the person who wrote this ad not be able to kind of check a couple of basic things? What are these stupid errors or straight up lies or omissions? What do these mean to you, Wade?
They mean a lot because on the one hand, it makes it difficult for a potential buyer to properly research the car. Clicking on a Carfax link or having some sort of proper current documentation should just be a given, especially with a car like this. And it also begs the question, is the information being provided by the seller? Is it being sourced somewhere? Is this even the correct car that they're representing with some of the information? It's very bizarre. And from the seller's perspective, if some of this information is very obviously wrong, reach out, put a comment in, do something to fix it ASAP, because as soon as you have comments coming in questioning the legitimacy of the documents, the history of the car, the service records, where you got it, what ownership history is like, that's when the auction starts to fall apart. And that's bad for both the seller and the platform. You'd think, right?
I don't see Doug DeMuro making this mistake.
No.
Ever.
Yeah.
They make mistakes, but not like this. And
Yeah.
when they make mistakes, they resolve them immediately.
Correct it, pull the listing, whatever.
Yeah, this car has a couple days to go, and it still hasn't. No one's talked about that. If they're wrong about these simple things, what else are they wrong about? What do you think, Switcher Gary?
Interesting. So going through this, I did notice that the last service date on November 2nd of 2020. This one right here, Dobson Stuttgart in Seattle, Washington. My good friend Matt Adair is one of the founders of that one. So if anyone's actually interested in this, I'll get a hold of them. Say, hey, remember that car you serviced 3 years ago? They're fairly reputable, but yeah, I think you're right. You know, we've got we were giving the whole DeMuro Cars and Bid site a bit of a hard time about not being up-markety enough, but they got their feces co-located. They don't make silly mistakes like this. So, you know, yeah, this car would have been better represented on there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, is this car headed for the chum bucket? What we like to call the deal tank over there in Oyster Bay, New York.
Anthony's already said so, and everyone is agreeing with him.
Yeah. All right, so where do we think this car will land? Michael Deeb has put his bid in on the old spreadsheet. He says $49,000. I think that's a good bid. It's a .2. There are discrepancies. But people that know this car will probably spend money on it. Oh, look, Michael Deeb just lowered his number while we're looking at the spreadsheet. Michael Deeb, you can't do that. Get out of the bed. Is he?
No, he's not commenting.
Did you drop your phone in the toilet? What happened? What is going on? You just stole my bid. That's where I was going to be at, Dick. So I'm gonna go 44. 997. So there it is. You deserve that one, Michael Deeb. I'm parking it right under you. Wade, where are you at?
I'll cut you guys right in the middle. $45,500 unsold.
Wait, he went back up to 49. What are you doing?
Wow.
What is going on?
When he's not in the hot seat, all of a sudden he's doing research.
Like
he's typing it out.
He's fishing around.
No, guys, you're missing it.
Maybe his baby has the phone.
PCAR Marketplace is totally hijacked Michael Deeb.
Oh, yeah.
Michael
Inflated
Deeb has been
numbers.
hacked by the boys over in New York. All right. See, there's my contribution to bad accents. Wade, what did you say your number was?
$45,500, and I'm sticking to that. You can put it in ink.
All right. Where are you at, Switcher Jesus?
I'm going to say 42,992.
992. Okay, that's a weird little 992 on there. All right, we're having fun with that. We got some bids from folks in the Nerd Herd. What kind of numbers are we seeing out there? It looks like
we started the chum bucket at 38,000.
Yeah,
and then everyone kind of agreed. Randy came in at 41.
Nice.
Then Michael came through. He pointed out the Carfax was there, but he was making his bids on our spreadsheet while he was doing this. It was bid on just a minute ago, and now everyone's kind of chuckling. Sahad, who is a hardcore, he's literally been qualifying every car that you've had on here so far as slow. And I've seen the guy drive, so he probably knows what he's talking about.
You have a big displacement Mercedes.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And
buy his car. Buy Wade's car. What are you doing, son? Quit screwing around. He's screwing around too much.
That's what you want. And
Serious.
And so Deeb's trying to back out of here. Lewis is in at 32. Our good buddy Chris Carbine is in at 46.
Yeah, I think a lower number would
Lucas,
make sense if this were a 2006, but it's not. This is a 2011. It's one of the last years of the 997.
Yeah, there's just some sketchy stuff that's making making everybody nervous.
Agreed. But I think if this weren't sketchy, if this were on BAT, I think we're looking at a 50,000 or better car. Maybe even more than that. I know it's got some higher miles, it's 70-something thousand miles, but this is a fantastic car. I don't think it gets much more than 55 if it's on a better platform, but I think it absolutely has that potential if things were cleaned up and some of these discrepancies were dealt with. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. And let's move on to the next car. This next one's kind of fun. We're going back over to BAT. We've got a 1982 Toyota pickup truck, an SR5 4x4 with some cool-ass graphics. Take a look at this fantastic looking thing. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong deal myself. I love this truck. I'm just so giddy on this. I'm an old Snohomish kid from the Northwest. I grew up around these all over the place. This car comes out of Sparks, Nevada. That's up north of us here in Las Vegas. This truck has 158,000 miles. It's a 2.4 liter inline four-cylinder with carbs, a 5-speed manual transmission. It's got the dual range transfer case. It says it was repainted white, so I don't know what color it was originally. This is the old style deal with the locking hubs. You got to get out and actually lock the hubs on the wheel. How fun is that? It says it has air conditioning, which I'm absolutely shocked by that. Look at those graphics. The tricolor kind of white. You've got the white color. I don't know what specific white this is, but it kind of looks like an eggshell white with kind of like a gold, orange, and brown stripe with the gold wheels. I'm shocked to see that this thing has bucket seats. I don't know if I've ever seen bucket seats in this generation.
You had to get the
of
SR5.
Toyota. Yeah, well, no, but I mean, even the SR5, the later generation SR5s had bench seats. So you had to order the bucket seats specifically. I think the SR5 is the actual truck. It's not the trim level. If I'm correct on that, someone's going to have to help me out with this.
I believe you might be wrong. I believe the SR5 is a sport version of this one, and it was just known as Hilux everywhere except in America. It was known as truck until the Tacoma came online.
I mean, is this this is the 22 RE, or is this which engine is this?
I believe this might be the 22. I don't know if it's the RE or the R.
Let's see. Oh, it does say the 22R. Yeah, because I think the 22RE had fuel injection.
Correct.
The later ones. Yeah, this thing looks like it's really clean, but it also looks like it was frame off restored. The frame was repainted in gloss black, and additional photos were taken during the various stages of refurbishment. So this truck is, I didn't do my homework. I'm kind of looking at this fresh. I took a quick glance at it before we started the show. Just getting into this, it's a lot deeper than we originally thought. This is not just a nicely preserved 82 Toyota. This is a full-blown restoration. What do you think of this truck, Wade?
Yeah, this is interesting for a couple of reasons. This is the sort of build in these sort of era of trucks that's really popular right now. You have the bigger, older body cars, the Broncos, the K5 Blazers, the American big trucks. But you have trucks like these that are, relatively interesting, and you don't see them resto-modded to this level. I mean, this is a comprehensive, this isn't even a frame off. This is like a frame disassembly resto mod from start to finish.
Well, this isn't a resto mod. This is a resto. There's no mod about this, right?
I mean, theoretically, but if everything's relatively new, I would consider that something,
Well, no, I mean, it's all stock. There's nothing like a resto mod would mean giving it a modern engine or modern suspension or modern something. This is all original junk. This is all originals. Yeah, and that's the engine this came with it. That's the carburetor, all that stuff.
Well, if that's the case, then this is a freshly built old new truck. I mean, that's really, really interesting. The thing about it though is I don't know that it's the kind of truck, no offense to it, that warrants so much love and attention from start to finish. I mean, a lot of these builds, resto mods, restorations, they could be 6 figures worth of parts and pieces and labor and months of time. It's a nice truck, but you really got to find somebody who is going to appreciate the craftsmanship of this build that they put all of this together over, I'm sure, months and months of time and labor. And this also reminds me of, Mental, to your point, the Hilux, the Hilux from Top Gear that they tried to destroy and dropped from a building and ran over. These trucks are relatively indestructible based on certain non-scientific tests. So that's fun. It has a lot of miles, though, but it is kind of
just
new.
getting broken in, my man. 158,000. I don't know why they restored it. I mean, all they had to do was pour some sand in it and it would keep going.
Yeah, I think they may be testing the market on this because there is a big market for older trucks that have been changed, modernized, or revised, kind of new, but kind of not. So I would be interested to see what this goes for, and I'd be curious if it maybe sparks some lower level restorations on these trucks that maybe aren't competing with the big American trucks, but are still bringing like weirdly a lot of money for an old Toyota pickup truck,
Mental, what do you think?
I'm going to go completely disagreement with Wade on this one. These trucks are so popular and they have such an aggressive following. About 15 years ago, a dealership in LA was offering basically this in Land Cruisers, which I know is not the same vehicle. Toyota trucks have a huge, especially their 4x4, it's almost a legendary following. And because they were disposable for so long, there's just not a lot of good ones out there. There is going to be a lot of interest. People that normally aren't even interested in collecting cars are going to come looking for this thing because this, in the documentation of showing how well it was done, is absolutely going to help with the sale on this one. This is a better than new truck.
We had the Flying Hawaiian Dave Kealoha in the studio a few months back when he was selling his RSR project, and that car, I think almost $300,000 on BAT, and he restored that car ground up, rotisserie, all that kind of stuff. Same kind of, now his was definitely a resto mod, upgrades of everything, kind of a poor man's Singer if there's such a thing at a $300,000 car. But I think to your point, Wade, this stuff costs a lot of money, and but Flying Hawaiian was saying that, the Porsche tax is real. And he said, it's so hard to get anyone to build engines, to get components. Everything's just so ridiculously expensive that they have to be $300,000 cars. He was talking about maybe switching over. He was doing some resto mods on Ford F-150s, on 70s Ford F-150s, because they were relatively cheap to get and you could get big displacement, engines and just plop them in. Ford parts are easy to find. You can find new stuff and it all bolts up. And he's like, yeah, I could spend the same amount of time restoring a Ford F-150 and get $150,000 for it, and actually, do it more quickly and be more profitable that way. Whereas even though he was getting $300,000 for the Porsche, the parts cost him so much more that the margins just weren't there. These Toyotas, I think, might be kind of fitting in that ballpark. I'm kind of with you. Were you referring to the Icons, Mental? Is that what you were getting at? You were talking about the dealership getting all the the old Land Cruisers and stuff. Icon.
It was an actual factory FJ40 that you could buy from a dealership in LA. They were buying with all new parts and completely restoring them up. They weren't cheap, but
that must have been a long time ago.
It was, and they were coming. They were coming with warranties, but it just shows, and they sold out before they built the first one.
And you're not talking. You are aware of Icon, correct?
Yes, this was a dealer.
Okay,
that was doing it. But this, and then they got the backing from Toyota, and then somebody did it with 240s. But these things they generate the kind of passion.
But they don't bring huge money. I mean, they don't bring
that's
huge the problem.
Money.
Yeah, it's like, because I was at Barrett Jackson a few years ago. I think it was the year before. I think it was like 19 or something like that, right? And so I saw one of these in line and I'm going, oh, hey, dude, I got to register. I'm going to try to buy that. I'm thinking I'm going to be able to get it for, $5,000-$10,000 or something.
No.
Because it had 158,000 miles on it, same as this one. And that, Barrett Jackson in 2019 with 150-something thousand miles on it, it went for $30-something-thousand. Like,
and that reflects what we're seeing already coming out of the nerd herd. They are on this one. We have struck a chord. Lucas is saying 41, Anthony 38.5, Randy's big man with 43.5. We've got a 35K. Ross says 55. Chris Carbine says 53.
all those numbers seem pretty good to me. I mean, if you look at 2019, if you just go inflation drinking game, that kind of makes sense. Those cars that I was talking about were originals. This one is a restoration. I've never seen one of these restored.
He's done this several times. Anthony,
this guy?
Anthony was telling us he knows who the seller is, and this is kind of a cottage industry. So he knows how to restore it. So it's probably extremely well done.
I just don't think, I just, for the amount of work, if he's only going to get $40,000, maybe he bought the truck for $5 or $10 grand. We were looking at some of the pictures of how poor a condition it was in. I know you can get Toyota parts pretty inexpensively, but all the time and effort of repainting and body work and all that kind of stuff. I mean, how many months do you think it took does it say in the ad?
Yeah,
Did anybody read that much?
I'd be interested to see the build sheet, the progress, how long it took. But if he's done this before, he may just have a system down where let's say, every 60 days, 90 days, he can turn it over and maybe he makes 10 to 15 grand per truck. I could see that. But to your point, the Barrett-Jackson crowd definitely likes the restorations, the big trucks, the interesting things, and the builds too. So I wouldn't be surprised if he almost sort of creates the industry for this kind of truck and sets the standard for restorations on this particular, chassis, this brand, whatever he wants to define it as. It's probably never going to be a $150,000 K5 Blazer, but a $50,000 tiny Toyota pickup truck, I mean, that's still a lot of money.
I'd rather have the Toyota pickup truck than the K5 Blazer, and my dad had both. Michael Deeb comes in at $38,000. I'm going to say 45 grand. Wade, where are you at?
I don't know. Knowing almost nothing about this car, I'm not gonna go overboard. $38,500.
That's funny. I knew you were going to be at 38 something. Where are you at, Switcher?
I'm gonna be a little bullish and say that this one's going to defy the winter doldrums of collector car market. I think this one's going to go for
51,000. I like that bid. I want to be wrong. I want you to win this one, Mental, because I love this truck. I look my TV show. I try to plug it as often as I can. Porsche Road Trip.
I went looking. You don't have the truck episode.
Yeah, it's not up there. That one,
but everyone should go there.
Yeah.
And like and subscribe that one so that they can watch it as soon as it come out. Because
I'm going to start putting up all the episodes on YouTube here.
It really is.
That one's near and dear to my heart. My father, I bought him an '89 SR5 back in the '90s, and he had that car until he passed. And that was, it was beat to hell. But
the way a Toyota truck should be. Yes,
you cannot kill those things, man. When he passed, I went out there and picked up the truck. It had been sitting in a field in the desert for probably 3 years, hadn't been run. I put a battery in it, and it started like it was sitting in the mall parking lot. Like I went in for a Cinnabon and popped back out, boom, started right up. I used my left hand; it was the right. But anyways, all right, let's get to the last car. We've got we're staying on BAT. We've got a 1995 BMW E36 M3. What do you guys know? Look at this bright yellow thing. This is the 5-speed 3-door. I guess it would be 2-door. What am I saying? 3-door. I'm thinking it's like a hatchback. This is the 2-door version of the E36 BMW M3. Our good friend Sahan, you're out there watching this. We know your little black car put my Porsche C4S to shame. This is a nice one coming out of San Jose, California. This car has 70,000 miles. This, of course, has the 3-liter inline 6. Is this the E, or what do they call this? It
was the American version, because the Euro version slightly different.
Yeah. Okay. So in a 5-speed, limited slip differential, and Dakar yellow paint. That's a big deal. They put some KW Club Sport coilovers on this car, so it handle. I mean, these cars handle amazingly from the factory. You throw KWs on here, and it's a whole different ball of wax. I love this thing. What do you think, Wade? Have you ever spent any time behind the wheel of an E36?
No, I wish I have. This is a really nice example, and I know we just beat the hell out of the whole color thing, but Dakar yellow is the kind of color that BMW buyers and sellers specifically say this is a 1 of 187 in Dakar yellow with these options, or this is a 1 of however many. And this, kind of an ugly yellow if we're being honest, but it's the kind of color that like BMW owners sort of cherish. And this is a car that you can actually drive. It has 70-something thousand miles, like you said. So it's not going to sit in some guy's warehouse. You'll probably see it, and it'll probably have another 5,000 or 10,000 miles of fun before it turns over to being less collector, more driver. And I hope it hits the streets. I think this is a nicer than average example. And I don't, I kind of wish I had this car, but they're really, they've had their time, and the prices on these are more than maybe even they should be. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I don't know, a little inflated for a still fun car. I'll say that.
What do you think, Mental?
I know they're going to say that this is a rare color, but I swear when these were new, everyone bought them in black. And if you didn't buy them in black, you bought them in this damn yellow. I don't know what it was with the E36 M3s. I'm trying to figure out, that spoiler indicated something of a competition package, I want to say, but there was nothing about that.
That spoiler is aftermarket. That's an M Shaw aftermarket spoiler. But, I could definitely do without that spoiler on this car. The Vaders in the interior are really good shape.
And that's what the Nerd Herd is all geeked about, is the Vader seats, which okay, those are legit. That's pretty cool.
And I think kind of rare for 95. Those were mostly in the later cars. And then, 95, I think, was the first year of the M3 and the E36, if I'm correct. This has the 220 horsepower?
255, yes.
240 horsepower. With 225 pounds of torque. These cars, I know it says it's only 225 horsepower, or 240 horsepower, but they sure feel like a lot more than that when you get behind the wheel of one of these. You say most of them were in Dakar yellow. The ones I saw were always in Estoril blue or Hellrot red or whatever that was.
I never saw any of the red. I believe you. Just, where I was, it was always the yellow or the black. Never saw the red one.
Yeah. Great car. Maybe, compared to the E30, which is kind of the M3 to have, the one that started it all, this car has so much more performance. It's just light years ahead of the earlier version, even though a lot of people think the earlier one looks better, which I'm one of those people. Most of these cars, kind of like the Toyota we were just talking about, were beaten within an inch of their life. These were very cheap cars for a long time. BMW M3s and the E36 variant were $5,000 cars on Craigslist for 10 straight years. So many of these were drifted, run into walls. Everybody slammed them. These were the kind of cars that the kids got a hold of, and they didn't change the springs to lower springs. They just straight up cut them or hit them with heat to let it sag down. Yeah. This is the kind of car that was flossed out and all that kind of stuff. And it's just really, really hard to find one of these that are in good condition. Most of them are just trash.
Yeah, for the OG YouTubers out there who watch any car YouTubers, Rob Ferretti a number of years ago actually had this car in this color as like a giveaway car, and he put it together with duct tape and glue, and it was worth $7,500 at that time.
Yeah.
And I mean, he gave it away as like a proper poop box, basically, like, here, have fun, kids. And now, I mean, that car is probably worth $30,000.
Sahan Faizi will remember this story back up in Seattle when we had our studio up there years ago. We had a young lady, an actress, lovely girl, very talented. She appeared in many of our commercials that we shot up there in Seattle. And but she was so pretty. She was one of those girls. This girl was given an E36 M3 by her roommate. I think someone got friend zoned pretty hard, and this guy gave her this car, and this girl couldn't drive to save her life. She had never driven a manual. And Sahan was also appearing in a commercial that we were shooting together with her. And when we were going from one location to the other, Sahan owned the same car. He had a black version. So he got in the passenger seat with, I'm not going to name her name, but she's driving this car. And Sahan, do you remember how cringe that was? She didn't understand that the more RPMs meant more power and more speed. She thought you had to, that the next gear up would just get you more speed. So she would try to get to the 5th gear as quickly as possible. So she's going uphill, she's going on the freeway, just lugging the thing, just roar. And Sahan's trying to tell, he's like going, no, you got to let it rev up before you shift. And she's going, I don't like that sound. This is terrible. She just absolutely wrecked that car. She had no business to be on the wheel of that thing. Sahan, do you remember any of that? I'm sure he's going to, he's like saying, yeah, it hurt him. It hurt him bad. All right, so let's get to the numbers. What do we? E36s are coming up now. This is definitely a young timer. Clean versions of this car are absolutely sought after. If you were someone in your 20s back in the 90s, this is a car that you probably wanted when this car was new but couldn't afford. One thing I will say, for as long as E36 M3s were stupid cheap, they were also crazy expensive. Like, I remember in like 1998 when the E46s had just hit the showroom floor. They didn't have the M3 yet, but the E46s were hitting the ground. These were still like $30,000-$40,000. And then it seemed like the E46 M3 hit. They held on for quite a while. They were still like 30,000, high 20s. And then once they got like 10 years old, they just fell off. By 2005, they were freaking, you couldn't give these things away unless it was the nicest one. I remember Sahan wrecked a pretty nice one, and he had to fight his insurance company to get any money out of it. So let's see here. What is Michael Deeb? He has put his bid in. He thinks this thing's going to bring $40,000 on BAT. It's sitting at 18.5 with 4 days to go. I'm going to hit this thing. I'm going to say, is it going to break 40? I don't think so. It's low miles, but it's not that low. So I'm going to go well under him at $34,000. What do you think, Wade?
I think that's a pretty good guess. That's about what I was going to be at. I don't even know if it'll get that high. I'm going to go one under 33,000.
Okay.
It's, it's not collector grade. It still has a ton of miles. And I think whoever buys it is actually going to want to drive it. So they're going to pay $50,000 for a 70 or 80,000 mile. I don't think so.
Switcher, what do you think?
So I'm with you guys on this one. I think one of the things that hurt the E36s, it wasn't their performance, it's just that they were mass produced, unlike that E30, which was extremely limited production, but way slower than the 325 of its era. Incidentally, that is me driving and writing that article. But on that one, it's the catch to this one is they all went to the buy here, pay here lots. Every one of those E36 M3s, and they were all just, they were beat within an inch of their life, and they were everywhere. So I don't think they ever reached that point of where they were ubiquitous and then went rare. They just were everywhere and then went rare. No one is collecting these. The bone stock BMW that followed this one was faster. The 330s, and especially when you start getting into the 3 years later, so they don't represent that great of a leap of technology. So I'm with Wade. Someone's going to buy this car and they're going to drive it. I would be surprised if it breaks 35. So I'm going to say 35,325.
35,325. There it is. We have all of our bids in. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. That's all of our predictions for the week. We've reconciled all our old ones. We want to shout out to all the great Nerd Herd folks who are watching the show live. We've got Kevin, Sahan, Ross, Anthony, Lucas, Randy, Chris, Michael Deeb from the toilet. Everybody, it's IRS. The IRS is watching us. I'm scared now. Kevin, all the people, everybody. If I didn't mention you, thank you so much for being part of the Nerd Herd. We want to shout out our good friends over at Godden Porsche and Godden Classic of Las Vegas. They support the show, so we want you to support them, and they are great folks over there. If you are looking for a classic Porsche or you need your classic Porsche to be serviced, definitely give Steve a call at Godden Classic. You can see my friend Wade Bennet on Tech Daily on YouTube. Tell us about that real quick, Wade.
I make tech YouTube videos, and that's all.
And that's all?
That's all.
We sell spatulas, and that's all. Okay, Mental, how about you? You're over there at the E1
Absolutely.
Racing,
Everyone
right?
Racers, check us out. We'll have a new episode hopefully tomorrow.
Excellent. And tune in Wednesday. No, this is Wednesday. So tune in Sunday night at around
Sunday.
7. Sunday. It's about 7:30 is when we'll get started, assuming my partner Michael Deeb has had copious amounts of Pepto-Bismol and has cleared himself out, and he'll be back in the driver's seat from San Francisco joining us here. We look forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, notification buttons, all that stuff. Go to Derfasa Nation if you haven't checked out our other YouTube channel, as well as the Rami Show and the Dirt or Die Porsche podcast, which we're going to get started back up here shortly. Thanks for hanging out tonight. Guys, thanks for a great bid session. We will see you all Sunday evening. Tell a friend. Have them join us.